Today's public hearing is convened under the provisions of the Local Government Act of British Columbia to hear submissions relative to the proposed bylaw. All persons who believe that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard respecting matters in the proposed bylaw. I would ask those members of the public who wish to speak to commence your address to this board by clearly stating your name. The board will not debate the matters of a proposed bylaw with individual citizens, but members may ask questions of you following your presentation. The main function of this public hearing is to listen to your views. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views heard. Director Sal?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to recuse myself due to the fact I have a friendship with one of the parties.
We'll just wait for Director Sal to leave. Thank you. Bylaw number 2903 would rezone 1857 Noble Road, Birch Island, BC, from R1 residential single and duplex zone to CR1 country residential zone to permit a hobby farm. There are written submissions included with this meeting's regular agenda. Ms. Corporate Officer, are there any additional written submissions?
Thank you, Chair. No written submissions have been received following the public hearing submission deadline.
Thank you. Are there any in-person submissions? All right, I'm going to call for representation. If you could just please state your name.
Hi, my name is Abriana Leeming, and I am one of the subject property owners. Sorry, I'm going to apologize in advance if I need to take a breath or regain composure, because the last 8 months have been very taxing. I'm very anxious right now as well. I'm also going to apologize if you've already read through most of what I'm going to say. I just would wish to say them anyway, because my additional notes that I drafted yesterday after I received the materials, I want everything to make sense. Okay. Dear directors and members of the Thompson-Nicola Regional District, this letter's sole purpose is to address various claims and concerns included within Angela and Craig Reeder's opposition to our rezone application for subject property 1857 Noble Road. To start, they make mention of our claim that the property south of us has horses. We did not mean the parcel directly south, but rather the parcel that's adjacent to it and is the last parcel on our street. There are several horses happily living there, and they have been there for several years. We find great joy in seeing them and their owners riding down our street. It's one of the highlights of the warmer months. We are fully aware that property directly across from us does not contain horses, as the open field is not yet fully fenced and is used as a paraglider landing zone. As well, we have it on good authority that livestock has most assuredly been on our property prior to our purchase of it. The neighboring farm that's adjacent to us and the Reeders shared with us that their own equines were occasionally kept on the parcel in order to graze down the grass. To add, another Birch Island resident has shared that a friend of hers used to keep her horse on what is now our property. They used to trail ride together throughout.
Could I just stop you? If you could just slow down a little bit. I know you're nervous. I get that, absolutely. But if you could just slow down a little bit, because I suspect some people are having trouble hearing clearly what you're saying.
I'm so sorry. Take a breath. Okay. We find it curious that the use of our parcel directly near the property line shared by the Reeders and us is a matter of concern for an apparent medical issue, considering that the farm adjacent to both parcels has had horses.
So I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to interrupt you again. This letter is actually if it's the same letter, which it appears to be from the wording, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 page.
Yeah.
6-page letter. It has been included in all our agenda packages. So if you don't want to read it out in full, that is fine. I am going to give my fellow directors the benefit of the doubt and assume that everyone has read it fully. But if there are any additional comments that you wish to make, that would be, now is absolutely the time to say them.
Wonderful, thank you. I was curious about that. Then I will assume we've seen the presentation that I included as well. So I won't touch on that either. Thank you for your time, by the way, everybody. Okay, so this is new. In terms of the concerns outlined within the opposing petition submitted on March 2nd, I would first like to mention that they are petitioning against things that do not really apply to this rezone. The bulk of petitioners are not near us or even in Birch Island. None have had their facts straight or have tried to even talk to us. And also many of the provided names and postal codes seem a bit off. That could be hearsay. I'm still new to the area. Sorry. Also, if this application will be affected by popularity, we will lose simply because we are new to the area. Land use and compatibility and neighborhood character was something that was mentioned. The claim that this rezone would change the existing character of the road is false. Not only did the subject property already contain all livestock infrastructure prior to our purchase of it, but the road is also not strictly residential. It is also CR1 and I3. Precedent and incremental rezoning pressure. This is again false, and also I'm not too sure what they meant by it, as this already is happening, and that's how rezones work. It's parcel by parcel. It's already something that takes place, and this process is already here for this exact reasoning. And historically, 1832D Road, that's right behind us, the adjacent farm, they successfully rezoned not too long ago. Infrastructure, servicing, and public safety. I would like to say that for traffic, 90% of the traffic on Noble Road stems from the paragliding business attached to the industrial parcels and residential parcels on Noble Road. During the warmer months, there's a steady flow of traffic from paragliders all along the street. I personally have no problem with this. And from the many large parties hosted by the readers, from patrons of an Airbnb on the Noble Road, prior to our horses coming home, Noble Road saw consistent traffic. We have had our horses home since August 2025. We had 2 hay deliveries by a pickup truck and a flatbed trailer, some farrier visits with a pickup, a couple of vet visits, again with a regular pickup. Outside of that, we have had friends, family. Our impact on traffic is minimal. Drainage and stormwater. Our 2 horses will not impact anyone in such a way. I don't even think that the larger farm behind us, that's adjacent to every single other parcel on our side of Noble, affects parcels in such a way. As for damaging water lines, we are ourselves on a private well. We use minimal water compared to the neighbors who have several sprinklers working on their properties daily during warmer months. We're also not too sure what they mean by those water leaks. The image shows some melted snow, and in that spot, our horses had never been there, and they haven't been near the area since the snow flew. If there is a leak, we were not aware of it, and freezing temperatures can cause such things sometimes too. We still aren't too sure what they meant by that. Sorry, being sure I'm not too fast. As for the water supply itself, again, we are on our own well, and as for drainage and maintenance of the property, that is absolutely the property owner's responsibility. And this is why we will be utilizing rotating pasture paddock paradise system, which will maintain healthy ground that also ensures grass growth. And we really have no plans to install a complex irrigation system. For septic and waste management concerns, the only septic increase would stem from us. Same with waste, animal waste we have discussed earlier in our responses. Fire and emergency access. Our horses are on our property beyond fence lines. If they affect emergency access, I would love to know how. No new structures have been constructed by us. We had a fire smart assessment that went really well last year. Environmental, nuisance, and quality of life impacts. All of the concerns listed within this section are concerns that could be applied to pre-existing land uses prior to our arrival. Our 2 horses will have extremely minimal impact compared to other larger farms that were there prior to us. Sorry, I'm trying to go fast, but not too fast. Policy alignment. The concerns within this stem from an informed belief that we aim to launch a large equestrian center. This is false. As such, it does not really apply to our application. Requested decision and conditions. I'm just trying to gather my thoughts here. This is my first experience doing something like this, so I don't think such requests are appropriate for what we are currently doing. But again, I don't know for sure. Then again, the conditions stem from misinformed belief systems that we have a busy equestrian center. We have no such wish. I'm a full-time educator. We have enough space for 2 horses, and that's as many horses we're going to have. Also, sorry, I'm just reading my messy writing. As an educator, there are several signs that this petition was drafted by AI and contains several flaws. The request for transparent public process is what we're doing currently. Plus, this does read as if they would want a full overhaul of policy that exists for everybody prior to us, and it seems like a lot for the existence of two horses on the road. Also, for two large livestock, if we were in compliance, we were zoned for it. It's 1 acre for two. We have more than 1 acre. Response to resident concerns. So for the one letter by a Kelvin, the opposition stems from inaccurate information. He states there are no farms or commercial businesses on Noble Road, when in fact there are both such parcel types. 1868 Noble Road is a hobby farm on the end of the road, and 1828 and 1832 are industrial parcels that have businesses and some sheep and are across from Kelvin's parcel. As for his concerns, I have addressed them already. It's interesting that he has no issue with the pre-existing land uses that most assuredly fit within these concerns. For Marvin's letter, opposition again mentions traffic. And again, we have little to no impact on traffic, as mentioned previously. As for the remark about land size and livestock, this was addressed in our presentation, and it illuminates how little they really know about the horse industry. As for Ray's letter, he has historically boarded horses himself, though this is fully hearsay, and I will admit to that, as it was several years ago and a resident told us this. We don't have anything conclusive. We have had extremely positive interactions with him prior to this. He resides in the house across from us. He asked us to give him spare horseshoes for personal projects. He said to us, it's nice to see horses in the area again. Not once has he mentioned any of these issues that he supposedly has. He has lived there for most of his life. I believe his family once owned our parcel and had livestock. We are aware he has been a close friend of the readers for several years, as mentioned earlier. We do believe there would be some cognitive bias for his signing. Ruth and Terry Reader's letter is again full of inaccuracies. Our two horses would not have created a fly issue. Again, there's a large farm right behind them that hosts far more animals than two horses. As well, their Dust Bowl comment is a fabrication. The image of our two horses grazing at the end of our presentation was taken at the end of August 2025. They have plenty of grass, and responsible management by us will ensure that is maintained. As further remark about parcel size, I have addressed this several times. As an experienced horse person who has worked on a variety of farms, our horses have more open space than the average horse in the industry. Our horses play and move around as much as they could if they were on 10 acres. The only difference is they can't remain in a straight line for as long. As for feeding them, it seems that the use of hay has been forgotten to supplement forage intake. To add, some horses can't even eat grass due to health issues such as a laminitis risk. To think that horses only consume grass is to illuminate a lack of knowledge about these animals. To end, we are appalled and devastated by the clear vendetta people we have barely interacted with and people we have never even met have against us. The only negative interaction we had prior to this bylaw complaint in September of 2025 was when I had innocently approached them to see if they would be interested in splitting the costs for replacing our shared chain link fencing with sturdier fencing. My inquiry was immediately met with vitriol, and we have not spoken since. That was our last conversation, and this entire situation that we're currently in then took place. We moved here and spent our life savings to create a small piece of joy. Really just don't understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a tissue we can offer? Oh, there we go. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to make a representation? And do any members of the board, first of all, sorry, do any members of the board have any questions? Director Ansel?
Thank you for coming up here. It's obviously hard to look at a group of people that most of them you don't know and to present a case that's so personal. So well done. Thank you. My question to you is around the Facebook posts for business. And if you intend to move forward with providing riding lessons or any form of business on the property. And if you could let us know what your intentions are with that, or if it's simply to have the horses and not have the business side of it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. I'm just gonna kind of quote from my letter that I had in here, if I can find it. I'll just go off of my brain a little bit right now. So at all times, I only meant maybe a lesson here and there with a student. I never meant to have like 20 to 30 lessons a week, even not even close to a month of that. As a full-time teacher, I don't have the time or the energy, to be honest with you. I just love sharing my knowledge of horses and enjoying the horse with people. I had opened up one spot for training before I realized this rezone was a problem. I had no idea. We were still only going to have 2 horses on property at that time. We have 2 personal horses, so the training option I just took off the table anyway. To move forward, there's no real like business that I wanted to launch. It's more a service that I myself can provide to people in the area. And then if I had a personal arena that they could use, they could come by every once in a while. And I was thinking like a person, maybe once a month. So nothing crazy. I hope I answered everything there. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Checking for hands online. And did anyone else have, I saw a hand up for representation?
Hi, my name is Angie Leeming. I'm a resident of Birch Island as well as a parent to Abriana and her partner. I'm just here to support her and her decision. They moved out here to Birch Island because of us. All they wanted was to have a couple horses on some property. When they looked at this property, it was already equipped. There was nothing that they had added. They just made it look better, added more fencing. That was all. Just wanted to be quiet and enjoy themselves and have my daughter close to us. And I'm just upset about how this all turned out with all the stuff on Facebook, the slander. I don't know. I'm just here to support her. And I hope this goes well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? And do we have anyone online who wishes to make representation? If there is anyone online who wishes to speak or to make their views known, if you could just raise your hand, please use the raise a hand function. No, don't see anyone. Okay, I'm going to ask a second time for representations, either in person or online. Pardon me? It's for anyone who has anything that they wish to say about this matter. Okay, thank you. If you could step up to the podium, please, and please give us your name. And I just ask you to please speak slowly and clearly so that everyone can hear you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Berneski. I'm a resident out in Birch Island. We have property out there. Thank you for hearing us on this matter today. I appreciate having our voices heard. I will try to keep it brief, as I think that a lot of the community has spoken about how we feel about the change. In the original plan put forward, it was stated that they wanted to use the property for boarding and for training and for lessons. They have since claimed that this is not the plan anymore, but they still had prices listed on their Facebook for these services before any zoning went through and before anything was okayed with the community. I have been to Craig and Angela's property before, and the other horse property lining theirs is probably about 10 times the size and much further away from their bedroom window. The road is not intended to have large horse trailers trucked in for your own horse lessons and constantly turning around on a spot in the road that already has 2 lines in the water main, or 2 breaks in the water main line there. A water line that supplies a large portion of Birch Island with clean water. A water line that could get contaminated from groundwater seepage. Now, this may be part of the reason why it was always zoned as it was, but I do believe that this is a major reason why it should not be just rezoned without looking at how to make the rest of Birch Island not have to pay for it. I'm a property owner in Birch Island, and since when we bought the property, we did our due diligence to make sure that everything about that property aligned with the plans that we had for said property. We looked into everything. We spent lots of time looking into the rules of what we can do up in Birch Island. Now, I know her real estate agent made a mistake, but it is a buyer beware market, and it is not up to the rest of Birch Island to eat the costs of changing something that has been the same for 20+ years. I was welcomed into the community with open arms by everyone, including the readers. I never felt bullied into a decision or bullied for my opinion on the matter. This is my own opinion as a property owner out there who is on the same water line, who has had to do the due diligence and has had to put upgrades into our property and the adjoining things in order to be able to make what we wanted to do on our property possible. Thank you for your time and hearing me. And I hope the thoughts today of Birch Island and their residences are heard. I am also speaking on behalf of Angela and Craig today, who can't make it due to prior business engagements that were there quite a long time ago down in Abbotsford. So thank you for hearing us today. If anybody has any questions for me or our thoughts, that's all I've got.
Thank you. I see a couple of directors who have their hands up, so if you wouldn't mind remaining at the podium, that would be awesome. Director Sarai and then Director Grenier.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation and your opinion there. Just a couple of questions. You say you're on the Birch Island. Do you own any livestock on your property?
No.
Okay. And if this proponent was not promoting a business and just wanted to keep a couple of horses for themselves, are you still opposed to that?
I don't know if there's a stopping point though, because if we do rezone, what's to stop from putting another business in there? Like I know that their water line breaks out in front are a fairly big deal. And the more livestock you add to that, it's like the fence line is right there. The breaks are right in front of it. There's a photo. I don't know if it's available to show, but there's a photo. The water line breaks are right here. The fence line is right here. And the fence line to the property is right here. So I don't see how the water seepage could not be a problem unless the water line break was fixed.
Supplemental. So I'm just trying to get some clarity here. Are you opposed to the proponent having a horse riding training business? Or are you opposed to them having horses, period?
I'm not opposed to them having horses, period, but that's not what they had put forward. And that is not what I have heard from the very beginning, that that's what they want to do. And from what I've gathered, it's you have to make sure that you can do stuff before you do it, because otherwise, who's to stop somebody from buying the property next to mine and starting a circus training thing right there? And now I have clowns and elephants and all this stuff coming in. I know it's a ridiculous, hyperbole of the situation, but still, at the same time, it does set a pretty poor precedent of being able to buy a property and then essentially making everybody around you just deal with it. There's a reason why they were zoned certain ways. I'm not a city planner. I don't know exactly why they were zoned certain ways, but there's reasons why it was originally zoned not for horses. I'm not sure if that's in relation to natural resources down there, because I know that there are horses down here and there's horses over here, but that doesn't mean that right here isn't a problem.
Director Grenier?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. You've pointed out this water line is a concern to you as it's related to the horses. And I'm trying to get some perspective on this water line. Is this water line on the surface or is this water line buried or?
It is buried, yeah. It's it's a water line that basically supplies most of Birch Island with their water off of the Foghorn Creek. It goes down, it goes down and around, and either way, the cracks are right in front of, I don't know how deep they are, but the cracks are right in front of their
And when you
their proposed pasture.
when you say cracks, are you talking about some earth movement, or are you talking about the pipes themselves?
The pipes themselves are cracked.
And uh, uh, aside from the cracked pipes, if the water itself, if your concern for water security could be addressed, would you be opposed? Director Shives asked you about the more intensive equestrian business, but if the water system could be, if you could be assured about that, would you have opposition to them having horses?
To having horses, I don't have like, that's the thing, is that I don't have a problem with somebody having horses that are okay in the property they have. I don't believe the property they have is large enough to have 2 horses. Legally, that's a different story, but personally, I don't believe it is. And we own an acre and a half out there, and I wouldn't put 2 horses on there. I just wouldn't do it. That's just me personally, but I don't agree to the idea of putting a business next to somebody's house who's been there for so many years and then forcing them to just get in line with your new business when it's going to affect many aspects of their life and many people around them and many people in Birch Island. Because now when they start watering their pastures and when they start using all that water, what happens to everybody else on the line? Right? Like it's all part of the community and the betterment of the community. And until those water lines are fixed, the multiple cracks out there that we've been waiting for to get fixed, I don't think that this should be a thing that goes through. That's water, that's people's drinking water, that's people's well-being. And I don't think until those cracks are fixed, there should be horses over top of that. Personally.
Sure, and just for clarification, I mean, I've pulled up a map of Birch Island. I'm looking at the subject property right now on Noble Road. Where is the water line in relation to that property? Is it going under the road? Is it going under their property physically?
In the package, in the whole package that was sent for the TNR that's online, there's a picture that is in front of the house, and there's 2 spots in the snow that have melted. Those 2 spots are the cracks in the water line. They are they're right on the fence line of where they want to keep the horses, essentially.
Okay.
And another thing as well is these fences that have been put up, they're 4 feet and they're supposed to contain the horses from going into other people's yard. And it's like, I believe in the complaint, one of the things that is stated is they complain about the state of the fence. Well, now they're saying that that fence is supposed to be able to hold up horses against their property as well. So I don't get how these horses and how all of the mess and how all of that is supposed to stay contained in their yard, in that small pasture for 2 horses, and potentially a goat, and potentially a mini horse.
I've pulled up the picture that you referenced, so thank you very much for that reference. And so, sorry, just to clarify further still, just for my own benefit, is the concern regarding the alleged breaks in the water line, are you concerned about traffic on the road? Are you concerned about the horses exacerbating the issue somehow? I just trying to get a handle on what the concern is.
All of that, essentially. The driving in and on the road with trailers, horse trailers and stuff like that will cause problems to that road. It was never intended to be used for use like that. I mean, I understand now there's talk of not doing the lessons and all that sort of stuff, but I don't know if that's going to be the case, right? That water line has been a problem for quite a while. I don't know when it's going to get fixed. There's a few other breaks out in Birch Island that have been a problem for a while that haven't been fixed. But I don't see how rezoning this will make that problem go away. And having horses on top of it, on the pasture, will definitely cause weight on the water line. It runs right there.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Anyone online? Director Sarai.
Clarification, thanks, Chair. Just some clarifications. When you talked about the horse trailer and other water breaks in the water lines on Birch Island, so there are concerns throughout the island on cracks in the water system.
Yes.
There, I'm assuming, there are other horse trailers that travel those roads?
Those are roads that are actually graded for that. Those are roads that have been put in recently and redone
Okay.
for larger things, for big trucks, like some of the people out there run logging companies and stuff like that. So they redid the main road to the end of it for larger vehicles.
So those larger vehicles would not come close to this property at all?
No,
Thank you.
Director Houghton.
Instead of a couple of horses, if they had a couple of steers that they're feeding for their deep freeze, would you have a problem with that one?
if they were.
A couple of steers instead of horses?
I have a problem with how close it is to the water line that's broken, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
It could be goats, sheep, pigs, horses, whatever it is. If it's right near that water line, I don't believe that it should be rezoned for agriculture, for anything that can put waste into that.
Director Hall.
Thank you. Just a question on the water line. We seem to be going around in a circle here. Who's responsible for maintenance of
I wish I knew that. I wish I knew
the
that.
water lines?
Yeah.
Because it just seems like if the water lines weren't a problem, I don't think we'd have a problem here. But I mean, who's responsible? The residents of Birch Island? Not this resident, but the residents.
There's somebody out there who is supposed to be in charge of making this happen. We have been asking for years and years and years since I moved up there, we have been trying to get water lines fixed and nothing has been done.
Hmm.
There's been small fixes here and there. It's a really, really old system and it's a lot of money to fix, money that we don't have, money that we're trying to put towards a fire hall so that we have some fire coverage out there. There's not a lot of money to go around in Birch Island. It's not a very big place. There's about 350 people in that huge, huge chunk of land that are trying to make up the tax dollars that are getting spent there. And we don't get a lot of say in how it gets done. We don't get a lot of say in what goes on. And it's not a lot of money that's put into our infrastructure out there.
Okay, thank you.
I think we are straying rather from the purpose of this public hearing. But perhaps, Mr. Vieira, did you have anything you wanted to contribute? I saw you making expressions with your face.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just for clarification, because a few people looked my way, just to clarify, the water system in Birch Island is not a TNRD owned or operated water system. I don't have any knowledge of that. I can only assume it's a privately owned and operated system.
It is. That's what I'm saying. I have no idea who's responsible for it. Some guy out there who apparently takes money from us is supposed to be fixing this and nothing is getting done.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's any way that, we can get things moving faster on fixing the water lines or whatever.
Oh,
but
we are straying from the subject of this public hearing, so.
that is my main issue with it is the groundwater seepage and the problems that it will cause on the roadways out there.
Okay, thank you. Do any other, Director Grenier?
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking at this map and the property behind the one in question, that seems to be zone CR1. And then there's a smaller property on D Road that's CR1. And if I've read it correctly, those properties also have horses. So whether this property has horses or not, the property directly behind the person who lodged the complaint, that has horses. And then the one at the end of D Road, which is smaller than this property, has horses. Is the nature of this area a lot of horses previously?
There is a good chunk of horses out there. It's not horses on every property and it's not every property out there that is zoned to have agriculture on it and to have animals on it.
But the history of this area has had people and horses and houses. And it seems that from the pictures that I see, there was equestrian sheds and previous use of horses. So I'm just wondering, we started with a concern about the water systems, and I understand that, but the character of this area seems to be one where horses have played a fair role. It's not a one-off situation. It seems like there's many people with horses in this area.
There are, yes, but that doesn't mean that every house out there is zoned for it or should have it.
I understand that point. Okay, thank you.
The houses that you're speaking of as well are not on, like, the water goes down to here and one's way down here, and on the other side, it's run on the other side, and it's a gigantic property as well. It's like 10 acres of property on that side. It's not a small property by any means. Like,
Granted, I understand that there's one that's larger, much larger than the property in question, and then there's one that appears to be about the same size or slightly smaller. But I get your point that there's a difference in size as well.
Thank you. Do any other directors have questions? No, and anyone online? Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other people who wish to speak? Okay, now this is not intended to be he said, she said, back and forth rebuttal, just warning you now. So yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, and I hear you on that. I'm not here to do that kind of rebuttal. I just wanted to clarify a few things. As for prices on Facebook, the only price I ever put down was the first Facebook post that I had discussed in my letter. I have not said anything since. No lessons or anything have taken place. As for space, again, I only have space for 2 horses. I will not be doing an equestrian center, and if there's concern about me doing lessons, I will not even think about doing any at all. Maybe not even as a person who can leave my property. As for the water, I'm very confused about this conversation piece, as we are all on private wells. Ours is a drilled well. There are wells everywhere. And again, I had heard nothing about these water breaks until yesterday's petition. It is strange to me because it sounds quite important. As for horse fencing, our horse fencing is installed as a horse fence by a local wonderful company. We also supplemented that with electric wire. Horse trailers have been up and down that road prior to us. The other hobby farm at the end, thereafter our property. Noble Road is a paved road like other roads in Birch Island. So I just will keep that to that point though. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything to contribute at this stage? This was our second call for representations. So one more time, second call for representations. Third and final call for representations on this topic. All right, seeing no one else wishing to speak. There being no further speakers, I declare this public hearing closed. Thank you. All right, call to order this meeting of the Thompson-Nicola Regional District for Thursday, March 5th, 2026. The TNRD acknowledges that we connect with many First Nations across our vast regional district, and today we are located on the Tk'emlúps Secwepemc territory, situated within the unceded ancestral lands of the Secwepemc Nation, Secwepemcúlecw. The TNRD appreciates the partnership that we have with Tk'emlúps Secwepemc, and we respect the territory and land on which we gather today. Chair's announcements. Sad to learn of the passing of Bill Walton, who served on the TNRD board from 1988 to 1999 while he was a councillor for the city of Kamloops. He was very well known for his contribution to the arts in Kamloops. He served as chair of the Film Commission Advisory Board in the late 1990s, and he helped to spearhead the creation of the Thompson-Nicola Film Commission as a local government service in 1999. Bill also served on the Hospital District Board and was described as a major player in local advocacy efforts for a full Kamloops Cancer Center. The TNRD sends its condolences to the Walton family. In recognition of his passing, flags are being flown at half-mast outside the TNRD Civic Building. March 8th is International Women's Day. International Women's Day emerged from the activities of labor movements in North America and Europe and reflects over a century of collective efforts for women's equal participation in society, including the right to vote, work, and hold public office, all free from discrimination. These rights were fought for and won, not given freely, and they can as easily be taken away, which is one of the messages of International Women's Day. It's also a time for us to all to celebrate the contributions and leadership of women who make their communities and workplaces throughout the TNRD thrive, either through their paid or their many unpaid volunteer efforts. Women have done this throughout history. So on International Women's Day, March 8th, please take a moment to honor the women in your life. On March the 9th, the Thompson-Nicola Regional Library readers will participate in an engagement effort organized by the City of Kamloops for the Arena Multiplex project, which of course includes the new library. The library team will hear firsthand from Arena core user groups and community agencies about what they envision as being important for the future library space, as well as for its services and programs. The Thompson-Nicola Film Commission, in partnership with the Kamloops Film Society, is proud to present Learn About Film on March 7th and 8th at the Paramount Theatre in downtown Kamloops, in that direction. The two-day immersive event supports emerging and mid-career filmmakers, providing hands-on workshops, professional connections, and industry insights from writers, directors, producers, and story editors who bring real-world expertise from across the Canadian film landscape. For more information and to register, visit the Kamloops Film Society website at thekfs.ca. Also at the Paramount Theatre, starting today, is the 30th Annual Kamloops Film Festival. The festival runs today through March 14th and features a captivating lineup of award-winning documentaries, comedies, and dramas. Information and tickets are available at thekfs.ca. The Blue River and Avola community meetings, which were originally planned for February 25th, were rescheduled to March 12th due to weather conditions. The meeting in Avola will be held at the Avola Schoolhouse at 3 p.m. The Blue River meeting will be held at the Community Hall at 6:30 p.m. on both of them on March 12th. The meetings will include a presentation on the mosquito control feasibility study that was completed in late 2024 and will provide the community with an opportunity to give input on whether they support moving forward with a public assent process. There will also be presentations and discussion about other services in Area B, including the Blue River Library, water systems, and Area B parks and trails. I find this next one very exciting. Repair Cafe. Don't throw it out, repair it. The TNRD Solid Waste and Recycling Department is currently planning 2 pilot Repair Cafe events for this spring. A Repair Cafe is a one-day event that invites residents to bring a variety of household items in and work with volunteers to fix them. The first event will be held at the Chase Creekside Seniors Organization on April 25th. The second event will focus on repairing bikes and will be taking place at the Clearwater Library on May 30th. These events support hands-on learning related to repair, while simultaneously supporting a reduction in the landfilling of fixable goods. For more information on these events and other TNRD waste reduction programs, visit tnrd.ca/reuse. For those wanting to learn more about repair cafes, there is a very thriving 100-mile repair cafe. They have a very good Facebook page, and they go as far south as 70 Mile. They hold events at the 70 Mile Community Club once every month to 6 weeks or so, and they invite people to bring their electronic things in that can be easily fixed and made usable again. So really awesome initiative. Applications are now being accepted for the spring 2026 intake of the TNRD Regional Grant in Aid Program, which supports nonprofit and registered charity organizations' projects, programs, or events that have a broad benefit for the Thompson-Nicola region and its residents. There are 2 intake periods per year with $25,000 available at each intake. Applicants can receive up to $5,000 per intake in funding. Applications for the spring 2026 intake must be submitted by March 31st. For more information and to apply, visit tnrd.ca/grants. Upcoming meetings and events. March 10th to 11th, the UBCM Electoral Area Directors Forum is taking place in Richmond. On March 25th, we have an Electoral Area Directors Committee meeting at 9. On the 26th, we have a hospital district board meeting at 10 a.m. and a regular board meeting at 1:30 p.m. Today in your blue folders, you will find regular mail and a copy of a letter regarding the Kettle Valley Rail Trail. In the event of an emergency, if the fire alarm sounds, please leave by the safest exit doors, either at the rear of the room or at the main entrance. Go down the staircase, exit the building, and assemble in the staff car parking lot at the rear of the Paramount Theatre. Please do not run or use the elevators. If you have issues with mobility, please advise the corporate officer. All right, Director Bass.
Thank you. In relation to Mayor Coyne's letter, was there a point to it other than just informing us? Did he want support? I'm just curious why we have it other than.
That's going to be coming up under new business.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Additions to or deletions from the agenda? Are there any? Is this going to be just coming up verbally under new business? Or should this be an official addition to the agenda?
Thank you. For procedure's sake, why don't we add it as an addition to new business to the agenda?
Seconded by Director Newstater. Thank you. So we are adding the request regarding Kettle Valley Railway under new business. Are there any other additions to or deletions from the agenda? On the motion, all those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. We have the minutes from the regular board meeting held on Monday, February 12th. Director Ranta, thank you. Director Smith seconds. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We move into delegations. Our first delegation is the good people from Crime Stoppers. Whoops, I'm sorry. Oh, whoa. We're not going to get away with it that easily, are we? I'm looking at there. I was skipping ahead. All right, so we move on to 7.1, bylaws from public hearing. Zoning amendment bylaw number 2903, 2026. We do have a recommendation. Director Ranta, seconded by Director Bass. All right, thank you. Any questions or comments? Director Bass, then Director Middleton, Director Sow, before we
Yes,
go any
I'd
further.
like to recuse myself because of my friendship with one of the parties.
So I've got Bass. I can write fast or I can write legibly. We don't get both at the same time. Right now, so far I have Directors Bass, Middleton, Grenier, Sarai, and Houghton, Corporate Officer Jeremiah. Director Getz? No. Sorry? Okay. Corporate Officer Jeremiah, did you have your hand up to say something?
No, it was just to bring up with Director Sal, but he's already taken care of that, so we don't have to worry about it. Thank you.
All right, so we'll start off with Director Bass.
So just to be clear, you have to write legibly so you can read your own writing. Okay. I was wondering, because we heard an awful lot of issues today that have absolutely nothing specifically and governance-wise relating to what we're being asked. So I was wondering if Manager Vieira could just review, because this is just a land use request. And I was just wondering if you could just speak to that, and the fact, because we've heard about water, we've heard about horses, we've heard about traffic, but this is just land use. And I was wondering if there's anything that you wanted to add in that regard, because that's all we're being asked about right now.
Thank you. I'll pass it over to Manager Gross.
Thank you for the question. Yes, so the question at hand is rezoning from R1 residential to CR1 country residential to allow hobby farm use, so allow agriculture and horticultural use. So a lot of the things we heard are not directly tied to that. I think the question that the board has to answer is whether or not this size property at this location with R1 on one side, with country residential on other parts and other adjoining property lines, is it appropriate to have up to 2 horses on this property? That's really the question.
Thank you. Director Middleton.
So my question is when I'm reading the report and we're seeing what would potentially be permitted, which is 2 large livestock, 2 small livestock, and up to 40 rabbits or poultry, those could all be added in concurrently, right? You could have all those animals there at the same time. And if I'm recollecting from a previous application, I think it might be referenced in here, but are we able to put like a bit of a stipulation or a bit of a, I don't know if you call it a covenant or something or other in the lingo that might say we could go to this type of zoning, but that we would maybe expressly put in it that there would be a different limitation on the numbers of animals that could be on the property at one time? That I thought we had done that before somewhere, so I was wondering if that is an option.
Through the chair, yes, that's an option. So you're right. Currently, the proposal is to go to CR1, which would mean it would be allowed to have, based on this parcel size, 2 large livestock, 2 small livestock, up to 40 rabbits or poultry. If you wanted to restrict that further, that is something that you could do. Procedurally, it'll get a little bit messy at the moment because we'd have to do, either the owners would have to agree to a covenant to restrict further than what the bylaw allows, or we could go back, amend the bylaw such that it's a site specific that specifically says the keeping of, say, 2 horses maximum. But it's absolutely possible. We'll figure out the details after, but if the board wants to go that route, it is technically possible.
Thank you. Director Grenier.
Thank you, Chair. My question is also of you, Alex. Can you give us a bit of a background on the zoning of this? I don't think there's an OCP in Area A, which means that this is some historic attempt to zone lands, if I've got that right. And it does seem like there's a history of country residential in Birch Island from what I see on the plans and what I've seen driving through Birch Island. So can you give us a little history lesson on this area and the OCP?
Certainly, through the chair. So zoning would have been introduced here in 1973. At that time, a lot of these lots, including the subject property, was already created. So these lots were created prior to the introduction of zoning. At that time, it was only zoning. So it would have been zoned, again, R1. Many of the zones you see on the map today would have been the same. At that time, I would imagine what they did is they looked at the existing parcel sizes that existed in some of these neighborhoods and then gave a zone that would be closest matching to that size of parcel. Fast forward to 2020 is when we adopted the North Thompson official community plan. So there is a community plan here now in this area. Would have come after the zoning was put in place. That OCP does have language in it, generally supporting agriculture, which we hear from the public is rural areas is a very important thing. But it doesn't specify property by property which one would be appropriate for the keeping of livestock or animals. So parcels created before zoning, zoning introduced after, and I think what they tried to do was match the sizes. I don't think there was an intent in 1973 to try to say that horses shouldn't be kept on Noble Road. I don't think that was the planning intent. And we've come across this in Blackpool. We've come across this in a few other pockets where sometimes people feel that's not appropriate to have that R1 zoning and there should be the keeping of livestock, which allows this process to happen where people can apply. We can go through a public process. So it's still the correct route, but it's a question now of whether or not this is appropriate on 1.4 acres of land.
Supplemental to that, it seems that from the pictures, I don't know if you've been up there, but it looks like there has been horse activity on this property in the past. Have you got any thoughts about that?
Through the chair, looking at the photos and hearing from the applicant, that sure sounds like that, but we have no proof. So I cannot confirm that there's been a horse on this property. The property to the north is quite a bit larger. It's zone CR1. I think it's 14 acres. I don't know if there's been horses there or not. We hear there have been. That one would have an unlimited number of horses that could be located on that property. There'd be no livestock limits at that size. So whether there's been a horse there or not, there can be horses in the area under zoning.
Thank you. Director Sarai.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Alex, for that. And that was probably one of my questions. I think Director Grenier said it earlier too, that there is a smaller piece property out there that also has horses. I guess my question is back to the land use, as Director Bass said. Are there other hobby farms out there in similar in size? If you have that.
Through the chair, in Birch Island, I can't speak to that, but in other parts of the TNRD, yes, we have lots this size that have agricultural uses. But it's also fair for the residents nearby to say, well, we bought property here that's zoned R1, therefore we thought it wouldn't have agriculture. But can a 1.4 acre lot sustain this amount of livestock? Yes, we allow it elsewhere.
Supplemental, and I think that's where I'm struggling with both sides, but I hear from both speakers, there's horses throughout this area. So it's not a one-off where this small property is gonna have the only horses in the area. But also I feel for the proponents that bought the property, and you see a barn there, outbuilding, a hay storage area. To me, as a city slicker, I'd say, hey, it must have been horses on this property. Again, due diligence, do you find out what your regulations are? I give them credit. As soon as they did, they're coming before us to rezone it. And I think they're following what is asked of them. And so I just want to make sure that it's not a one-off, that there are other properties this size that have this type of livestock on it that is not, I'm not looking at, I'm not an expert on how much room a horse needs or two horses need, but I'm comforted to know that other properties this size are handling two horses, and it's working out fine. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Director Houghton, then Director Thorpe, and Director Onslow. All right, Director Houghton.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, like Director Sarai said, that you can have any specific type of piece of property, size you want, Bill. It's how the animals are cared for. I mean, you can have a lot size of this table, as long as they're getting fed, they're fine. If you're trying to maintain them on their own grass, all depends on the place. So that is really, how the caretaker looks after the animals. But my question is going to be to Alex, was if we allow the horses or steers or whatever happens to be on this property, they're all animals. Can we restrict commercial activity like boarding and horse trading, that kind of thing? Or, having the animals is one thing, having a commercial activity is another.
Through the chair, yes. And that's where it becomes a little bit gray, to be honest, because a commercial facility, no, would not be permitted by the zoning. But if people come over, friends come over, and the kids go riding there, if they provide lessons and an occasional person comes, how do we enforce that? So my warning there, my concern there would be, if the board approves this, I think it'll be difficult to restrict and say that nobody can come there. But if we were to get complaints that there's more than two horses, that there's trucks coming in and out and busloads of people coming in for two horses, then I think we can differentiate and say that's not allowed by zoning and try to enforce at that point. But just like you could have a piano in your home and have piano lessons and people come to the home, I don't think we'll be able to restrict anyone from coming to the property. So there might be people coming to and from the property.
Thank you. Director Thorpe.
Thank you, Chair. I think most of my questions essentially got answered. But if I'm looking at this map, there's another one sort of up in the left corner, a CR1. It looks smaller than this current property. And then the other comment you made, this larger property that's CR1, there's no restrictions to the number of animals they could have on that property. So in theory, they could be going over your 2 horses per acre and there would be no restriction, right? So at least with, if I understand correctly, with this particular property, there would be some restriction on the number of animals, correct?
Yes, through the chair. So the way the zoning bylaw works is in the zones where we allow agriculture and horticultural use, we restrict the number of livestock on parcels that are less than a certain size. And so on that 14-acre piece above, there's no restrictions, but on a 1.4 acre piece, there would be a restriction. And your reference to the other CR1 piece, yes, good point. We refer to that in the report as well. That was one that was done as a land use contract and the board rezoned it to CR1, I want to call it 10, 12 years ago.
Thank you. Director Onslow.
My question's been answered. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? All right, and on the motion, which is, oh, hang on, Director Sarai? Oh, it's already been moved, I believe. But thank you for the thought. So the recommendation is that zoning amendment bylaw number 2903 be read a third time. Now you've got me doubting myself. Corporate Officer Jeremiah, it was duly moved and seconded, was it?
Correct. It was moved by Director Ranta and seconded by Director Bass.
Thank you. All right, so on the recommendation, all those in favor of giving this third reading? Is anyone opposed? That is a unanimous decision passed. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Crime Stoppers. Thank you, ladies, for being so very patient. And please come up to the podium. And if my notes are correct, then I have British Columbia Executive Director Jill Millam, and Cheryl Betker, Treasurer for Kamloops and District Crime Stoppers.
Yes, that's correct.
What's that? Who's wondering what's happening?
No, sorry, can we have the clicker?
Oh, she doesn't realize it's been passed.
No, she doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, thank you for meeting with us today. I'm Jill Millam and already introduced as Executive Director for BC Crime Stoppers. My role is to oversee the 12 local programs that are members of our of BC Crime Stoppers, help them function within their communities and support them where needed. Sorry. Here we go. So I don't know how many of you know a lot about Crime Stoppers, but we'll give you a quick history lesson. How Crime Stoppers began. Our founder, Greg McAleese, was a detective in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And in 1976, he was investigating a murder of Michael Carmen, a gas station attendant who was gunned down. It was as a result of a robbery. Greg worked hard and nobody would speak to him. He, after about 3 weeks of hard investigation and meeting many dead ends, he took a bold decision. He decided to make a TV reenactment, kind of going on the local TV station. They showed an advert reenacting the murder. And at the end of that reenactment, he published a telephone number and promised anonymity. He basically was saying, I need to know what you know. I don't care who you are. I don't want to know anything about you. We need to get some justice. Within 72 hours, a call had been received by Greg, giving the license plate of the vehicle involved, which led to the arrest and conviction of the suspect. He was arrested, convicted of murder. And that was the very first Crime Stopper tip that was successful. Now, Greg's bosses love this. And basically, word got out of this great idea. It went all the way through America, went across the globe. Now we have nearly 1,800 programs globally, and 47 of those are in Canada. 13 are within BC. I'm struggling here. Okay, so the program today, we've become a little bit more modern, but not too far, straying far from the original model. There's 2 ways of submitting an anonymous tip today. One by telephone, you call the 1-800 number that we've got up there, and you speak to a trained call taker, and it's exactly the same as it was back in 1976. No one's asking the name. They are literally saying, what do you want to tell us? The information from that tip is then entered into our P3 tip program and sent to the local program of jurisdiction for a trained tip coordinator to read and then pass on to the police or whatever regulatory body the tip refers to. The second way of dealing with this is online. An anonymous tipster can visit their local program's website or the BC Crime Stopper website and click on Submit a Tip link. And this takes you directly to the program that our call takers are filling in. It's called P3. They put the information into there. And again, it's sent to the program of jurisdiction where the train coordinator reads and processes it and then passes it over to who needs to investigate it. When the tipster submits that tip, they're given a unique tip number and they create a password. Now, this is where tipsters basically have a choice from that point forward. They can choose to come back into their tip to see if a message has been left for them by the tip coordinator, or they can choose never to look at it again, basically give that information and walk away. If a tip is successful, the tipster is eligible for a reward, and that's up to $2,000. That's never changed since 1984 when the program began in BC. I don't know what the equivalent would be today, but it stakes at $2,000. And interestingly, we know that less than a third of the tipsters ever come back and ask for the money. And that goes to show that people trust the system, they want to speak out, and they want to help keep their community safe. Can we change? Thank you. So within your region, you have two Crime Stopper programs. You have Kamloops and District Crime Stoppers, and you have Merritt and Nicola Valley Crime Stoppers. We're here today to talk about Kamloops, which is our focus for today, but they are assisting Merritt and Nicola Valley Crime Stoppers as well. The tips that are submitted for that region come into the Kamloops program's P3 system, that tip-off system, or the tip system we were talking about. And Kamloops are paying our train coordinator to process those anonymous tips so they can get handled correctly and passed along. Kamloops generously at the moment also pay solely for the P3 tip program license, which is an annual fee. So basically the company that runs P3, we have to pay, each program pays a yearly fee to them so we can maintain access to the program so we can keep submitting the tips. Next one. So since inception, Kamloops Crime Stoppers have had 34,855 tips. That was up until the end of 2025. And obviously this year we've received more. You've received all the value of property and drugs recovered. So this is as a result of the tips that have been submitted to the police, is over $70 million. That will involve cash, drugs, property, firearms, everything that's related to crime. Over 1,500 arrests have been made and over 1,600 cases are cleared. So we work on cases, we don't work on convictions. So again, going back to our tipster, the reward is granted or approved by the local volunteer board once a positive result has happened, whether that be an arrest, property recovered, a missing person found, for example. Next one. So over the last 5 years, I did some deep diving. 2025, we had 495 tips were received, and you can just read through those numbers. And what we've seen, and my purview as well of being having the overview of the entire province, is where you have a program where there's a dedicated coordinator or program manager, which is what we're trying to do at the moment with the program here, we do see an increase in numbers of tips because there's somebody out there every day, 5 days a week, promoting the Crime Stopper message, whether it be by community events, whether it be by social media, traditional media, and going out and making presentations. Next one. Cheryl.
Thank you. My name is Cheryl Betker. Was the acting president for the last 2 years, and I'm the treasurer. I'm just going to talk about the different community outreach events that we've done over the years. So we've been to the Storms Mascot Night and the Blazers Mascot Night, and the Family Day at the TRU Wolfpack. The Boogie the Bridge, we did a Lost Kids tent last year. The Volunteer Appreciation in Aberdeen Mall. Emergency Days, Canada Day, Overlander Days, and the Wolfpack Tailgate Party that we've done over the last 5 or 6 years. We've also lent out our mascot, as you can see in the pictures there. to a number of local Crime Stoppers to be able to use in their cities, to be able to do some outreach programs as well. And it was well received, and a number of them are actually going to get their own mascot. So that's nice to see. We actually have some promotional items that we'd like to pass out. There's a table over there. We've got some magnets that have the tip line, so you can stick them on your fridge. We've got some carabiners that you can carry with you. It's got the tip line on it as well. And then we've got some flashlights for those emergency times that you need them when you're out and about. And then we've got some stickers that can go like window stickers, just to say that you support us. And if someone were to go and break into your place, they'll be like, oh, maybe not. We also have a number of billboards around. I know there's one out by the wildlife park. There's one out at Stump Lake, and we've replaced one in a couple other different places over the years as well. So the number is out there, and that's how we've been able to maintain. I think that's it. Oh, and we've got our website and our Facebook page. And so with the RCMP, we have the most wanted. And so that gets put up on our website, so you can see those and pass that along to everyone.
Okay, so Kamloops and District Crime Stoppers 2026. When COVID hit, basically, obviously, a lot of people and a lot of organizations did suffer, and Crime Stoppers was no different. So the board that they had in place at that time, a lot of people moved on. The program coordinator they had running the program, he moved away, and the program did dwindle somewhat. And we're in a rebuilding phase at the moment. We outsource the tips because that's the sort of cornerstone of the entire program, and those tips need to be handled really, really well. So tips were outsourced to another coordinator who's still dealing with them today, and re-engagement with the RCMP and the local community has occurred. Cheryl, I need to sort of publicly state it, I think, to all of you really, she held that program together. She and another member of another board member remained within the board, and on her own, she's managed to now pull together 8 extra board members. They've just filed their first AGM for the last 18 months, so we're back up and running with Societies Act. We have had some funding from a commercial vendor that BC Crime Stoppers work with, and they are going to help us fund the search for looking for a program manager that we can have somebody constantly working and giving everybody the message about Crime Stoppers within your community. We know Crime Stoppers keeps your community safe. It gives everybody a platform to speak out. One of the things that we were told a few years ago with the RCMP is that they weren't comfortable necessarily using tips. And as a result of that and working with the RCMP, we upgraded our tip form. It hadn't had a refresh for some time. And within the anonymous tip form, extra questions were added, asking the safety and true safety and anonymity of our tipsters. The tipster is asked to rate 1 to 10 how safe it is for them to be telling us this information. We asked them to rate 1 to 10 now, how anonymous they are. Is it likely someone's going to figure out you were the person that gave that information? All of those numbers mean something to the tip coordinator that's handling them. And then from that, we can deem the safety and true anonymity of the tipster before it's proceeded. The police can then read that, they can drill down, and they can also see how safe it is for them to proceed working on that information that's been submitted. Not every tip's going to give us a success, but it might be that piece of information, that nugget that they're looking for to fill in the gaps. And working with a local detachment here, speaking to the team that do handle our tips, we're told that they do use them. I've got a letter here of support from the RCMP I can read out to you if you want. But what they also say to us, historically, they'll go through the tips. So say they get a new file, they get somebody else, a new person and suspect that they believe, say, is a drug dealer. They will look at previous tips submitted to see if that person's been mentioned, because there could be a piece of information that they weren't aware of that perhaps has been sent in anonymously in previous times. We really are here to support Kamloops and District Crime Stoppers. We really want this program to continue succeeding. I mean, they have against all the odds so far, and from that we need sustained funding, and that's where your grant that you do give us at the moment, we are utilising it, we are using it, and it will be used in the future. I'm going to pass you to Cheryl now, as she is our numbers lady, being a bookkeeper.
Thank you. So this is just the last in 2025. This is all the expenses that we've done with the grant money that we've received over the last 5 years, on a yearly basis. We do advertising, the promotional items that I've been passing out at all the different events that we have. And then we did, a one-time promotional, which was, we did the, sorry, what's it called? The Into Thin Air? Into Thin Air.
Yes.
We're asked to help out with that, and so we advertised and promoted that program. It was it was a series that was done on CFJC in a number of different areas, and my understanding is quite well received, and there was a number of different cold cases that they were trying to drum up information in regards to. I went to a conference last year, which was really good. Jill has actually been the one coordinating all of that. We have insurance for the board members, and we have a trailer that houses a number of our the mascot and some other promotional materials that we have. The license, we're a part of the BC Crime Stoppers, and we've had a number of different meetings because we don't actually have a building or anything that we're in, so we've had to pay for places to have our meetings. And the P3 tip system, that's the cost of that. And then we have the social media coordinator and a tip coordinator that we're just paying on a subcontract basis until we can find a new program manager. Does anybody have any questions? I think that was the last slide.
I think we're at our last slide now, so we'd like to thank you. And if you've got any questions from the floor, we're happy to answer anything. But thank you for your time, and thank you for your continued support.
Thank you. Question, are you planning on doing the raffle, resuming doing the raffle car? Because I asked because they were always a staple of Cache Creek Graffiti Days, having the Crime Stoppers raffle car there. And in 2019, it was an Ashcroft resident who won it. So, and he was not a car person. He took it for one drive to Logan Lake and then he sold it off, which I know, tragic.
So due to COVID, that was a difficulty. We, in 2019, in 2020, we had purchased the vehicle in February and had to store it for 2 years because if you can't have boots on the ground, it's very difficult to be able to raise that $100,000 to be able to make it well worth it. We did have prizes at the time, and so we decided to keep those. And in 2023, we ended up doing a raffle and we sold the car back to the dealership because that's when, with that type of a vehicle, that's when everybody was having the difficulty that you could physically not buy that vehicle because of the certain components that could not be put in them due to COVID. And so we decided to take a loss. So we took $11,000 loss on the raffle but we decided that it was important to give back to the community. So that's what we did. And I think we had about 10 or 15 prizes. And so everybody was very thankful for that in 2023. In 2024, we just did a 50-50 raffle, just to try and see how that would work, not having boots on the ground. And it did not go over very well. I think we managed to make like maybe $1,500. So it was just enough to help out with some of the expenses. And then in 2023. In 2024, we did have the car raffle. So we did get another car and we did hold the raffle. And that's when we still had a program manager. But with not having that program manager, getting volunteers has been very difficult. And so we've been working on just trying to get the board back and up and running. So with the new board, we just had our first AGM, like I said, over the last 18 months. And so we've got our second meeting is on March the 18th. And so hopefully we'll be able to go through. There was ask about the car as well. But when we have more people, so we would need to have more volunteers to be able to do that. And PV Mart was PV Mart and the tool place out in Valley View, they were very beneficial and let us have the car and have somebody stand outside at least twice a week to be able to sell tickets. And that was very handy to be able to do that. So yes, hopefully it'll come back. It might not be a car. We're talking about maybe doing a mountain bike and doing it at some peaks. So we'll just see how that goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Director Newstader?
Thank you, Chair. Just one final comment. Thank you for volunteering. I hear that loud and clear when you say if it had not been for a volunteer who stood in the gap, this important service would have fallen apart. That's how things work behind the scenes. And it takes people who sacrifice their own time, time away from your family, time away from your work, who, take your professional expertise and apply them because you love the community and you're seeking justice in a way that you can. And I just want to make sure you feel seen and heard. And I appreciate that acknowledgement that says without this, families would not have the results that they need for these crimes. People feel less safe in their community. And as a city councilor and chair of our safety and security committee, I'm deeply grateful. We see your work. I follow your Facebook pages, and we see the engagement and the importance of it, and that it creates a different kind of safe space for people to share information and become involved. So just want to make sure that we also express our gratitude to you.
Thank you. Anyone else with any questions or comments? Nope. I echo Director Newstader. Thank you very much for all the work that you do.
And there are promotional items in the basket, and I'll leave them, pick them up later. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we have an online presentation from Cairnstone Planning on behalf of Northern Development Initiative Trust. We have Peter Schultz from Cairnstone Planning. Mr. Schultz.
Good afternoon, attendees and honorable board. Calling in from the Calgary area, and I have a good old-fashioned cold, so please excuse the mouth breathing. I do not refer to that, it refers to Albertans in general. I actually from BC, grew up in Mission and Deca Lake, and I will have a presentation that lasts approximately 10 minutes that covers the purpose of this project and requested actions from TNRD. Now sharing screen. The project is Prince George to North Vancouver Railway, transitioning from Class 1 management. The project is being undertaken by two individuals, myself, I'm Master of Arts, Regional Planning, Town Planning from UBC. I grew up in Mission and Deca Lake, and also lived in Pemberton for a period of time before moving to Alberta, and lived in Nunavut in the interim. I've had a lot of jobs in transportation policy, and I'm also a professional transportation planner. My associate is Dean Doki. He's a hereditary elder with the West Moberly First Nations. He's leading in First Nations engagement throughout the corridor, and I've worked with him on various projects since 2008. The key points of this project is that in July 2025, Canadian National Railway listed the section of the railway from Exeter to Brackendale for discontinuance, effective as early as July 2026. So this does include TNRD, and then it covers the stretch of the track from 70 Mile, including Clinton. In July 2026, there's a number of possibilities. Nothing may happen. The issuance of discontinuation doesn't necessitate further action. But it could include other re-governance structuring. It could include sale of the track to CN for demolition. That is a low probability, but it is not a non-zero probability. This project is being funded by NDIT at the request of most of the mayors in the Sea to Sky and Caribou area. Success on this project is based on 4 primary points. Number 1 is finding at least one credible railway that's interested in taking over the activities that CN no longer wants to do. That has been achieved. There's at least 2 short line railways that are involved, one of which I have regular communication with, another one which is another one or two, which are pursuing their due diligence process in a confidential manner. But these are well-established short-line franchised railways, some with operations in Canada, some with operations in the States, some with both. Second point is a letter of interest amongst all or most of the First Nations on their future interest in future co-management or co-governance of the rail corridor. We have made initial approach to all 24 First Nations along the line. 3 have signed letters of interest at this stage, and our target is to hit at least 12 in the next 2 months. Dean is leading that process. Establishing a common understanding amongst communities and senior governments of strategic and economic importance of the railway. That's what this delegation is part of. That is why I'm here today, is to talk to TNRD about that. And communications with senior government are starting to ramp up. And there is a resolution that was passed by the District of Squamish, which was shared to TNRD about a month ago, that I have resent to your corporate staff about an hour ago. And at this meeting or a subsequent meeting, the request is for TNRD board to consider endorsing this resolution as the regional district. And number 4 is active discussion of scrapping the railway has ceased. That's a subjective measurement, but at this stage, I don't think anyone, excuse me, in Western Canada would actively be in favor of this at this stage. So that's where that is. This map is a rail map of the 3 Western provinces, and it tells a story that I think is pertinent for everyone to understand. The red lines on this map are railways that are functioning. The white lines on this map are railways that no longer are functioning, which may, in many cases, includes the track being removed. What we see on this map is a lot of the spur lines have been shut down over the last 20 years. The reason they have been shut down is the deindustrialization of the economy led to a very strong focus for the railways on import-export functions, leading to a bifurcation of the industry, of the railroading industry, between Class 1 and short line railways. The Class 1s focused on import-export functions, and the short lines have been coming in, filling the slack. So basically, Class 1s are dealing with trains that have 100 or 200 cars moving at 80 to 100 kilometers an hour for thousands of kilometers, and the short lines are dealing with trains that maybe one rail car that needs to be at somebody's yard to be filled, or 10 or 50, or a much smaller trains, white glove service. And you'll notice on this map that a lot of those red lines on the prairies are red on the Saskatchewan side and white on the Alberta side. The reason is that the province of Saskatchewan typically did not allow track to be removed when a spur line was discontinued by the Class 1. Whereas in Alberta, the government usually did allow them to remove the track. And what happened in Saskatchewan is that once the Class 1 railway had abandoned a certain spur line, is that the people along that line would get together and they'd get trackage rights by hook or by crook, and then they'd go buy an old locomotive at an auction sale, and they'd start running their own railway. And most of the short line railways in Western Canada are in Saskatchewan, and I'd say 30 to 40% of those red lines in Saskatchewan are run by these very small companies that may have one locomotive, but they use it for getting the fertilizer in, the grain out, the potash out, those kinds of things. And it works really well for them. I've had the honor and privilege to talk to some of the railway owners. They're farmers most of the time, and they develop a really detailed knowledge of the communities along those lines, and who's doing what, and who could help who with moving that to here. It's a very different way of viewing the world than a much more impersonal world that we live in. And the short line railway really becomes integral to their regions and their communities. It's been really interesting to see that. And that hasn't happened in Alberta because rebuilding track is very difficult nowadays. Steel is extremely expensive, and getting all the permits for creosote ties is also extremely difficult. So BC is not immune to this process of short lines and small and medium enterprises getting kind of lost in the mix as the class ones focus on the big trains moving between major ports. So the Kettle Valley Railway was shut down, converted to a bikeway, and now we find out that a portion of that bikeway around Princeton is going to be shut down permanently as well. So there won't be a bikeway or a railway in the Princeton area. And Exeter to Brackendale is all part of the same process. There's a lot of industry in Quesnel, for example, and it's more economical for CN to move products from Quesnel up to Prince George and then around through Valemount and down through the canyon because of economies of scale. So in a nutshell, what this project is trying to do is just fast track the whole process of transitioning from class one governance to a mixed governance or a short line managed governance regime. What exactly it's going to look like, I don't know. The point is to get it moving quickly while the track is still in operational condition, while the Rocky Mountaineer is still running along the track once a week in the summertime, and create the ability for industries in 100 Mile, there's a proposed inland port in 100 Mile, Port of Squamish, etc., to take advantage of to realize their economic opportunities for themselves, their communities, and their regions. The other factor is if you look at these red lines, you'll see that there's two lines coming into Kamloops, one from the east, one from the north. The east one is the CP and the north one is the CN. Then they parallel each other along the Thompson or Fraser rivers through the Fraser Canyon. If the Fraser Canyon gets shut down, the only way to get to the Port of Vancouver by rail is to go all the way around through Prince George and Quesnel and down through North Vancouver. To give you an idea of the vulnerability we're actually dealing with, this is a satellite image of a location in the Fraser Canyon, 20 kilometers south of Lytton. The yellow line is the old Trans-Canada Highway, the one that people still need to use when you have those really big snow dumps up on the Coquihalla. And this is where the CP and the CN basically use both sides of the Fraser Canyon, but at this particular location, the two railways switch sides of the canyon. And where you see this concentration of vital infrastructure, this is the artery of the whole Vancouver area right here on this slide. If you knock out this area in any kind of significant way, then you've cut off most of the ability for Metro Vancouver, 3 million people, to effectively operate as part of Canada. And we all remember the floods 5 years ago when Vancouver was, for all intents and purposes, a really heavily populated island. And so with that, the next steps on this project is all parties being asked for insights and priorities. So if you're, I've already spoken to the Village of Clinton and the Caribou Regional District, but you know, if there's operators, if your regional directors are aware of clients or latent demand for reliable rail services, please do let me know, and I'll add it into the mix because the more latent demand there is for rail services, the more likely a class one will go from a short haul railway will go from a due diligence process to a confirmed desire to take active involvement in the line on a permanent basis. The local government resolutions, which I've already mentioned, we're continuing to work on the letters of interest, as I mentioned, and then I've already mentioned the local work I'm doing. So I'm now at 11 minutes, 45 seconds. I'll stop here for questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Director Lepso?
I'm just wondering, that map you showed us where the railways crossed, whereabouts is that?
20 kilometers south of Lytton, approximately.
Pardon me?
20 kilometers south of Lytton, approximately.
That's in my area. It's actually called Siska. If you ever come down, I'll take you there. It's really cool to see both the trains going at the same time.
Actually shows how the names get corrupted because the First Nations know it as Siska, which James Tate, the ethnographer from Spence's Bridge, translated as meaning it could mean enforcement. It could also have meant a creek, a noisy creek. But the white settlers heard it or misread it or misheard it probably, and they called it Cisco. So as far as the train's concerned, it's Cisco, but the area is known by First Nations as Siska. So depends on what you're talking about. You have to be careful, but it is a beautiful area. Director Grenier.
Chair, is that the train that we saw in our out-of-town meeting? It is.
The Rocky Mountaineer going past the
Well, I didn't know.
Pear
I just
Lake.
saw a
Yeah.
train go by up the hill. My question to the presenter is, what is the condition of that track? You know, we heard about how there was the track to Churchill, Manitoba, which was falling in disrepair. Is this one falling in disrepair, or is it in good shape?
It's in the middle. The chief operating officer of the Rocky Mountaineer informed me that 10 years ago, on a hot summer day, the Rocky Mountaineer would take 8 hours to go from Whistler to Quesnel. Today, that trip on a hot summer day is 12 hours, which indicates that there's risk of heat warping in that big incline from Lillooet up the hill to Clinton. So it is operational. It is safe enough to operate a train that's full of 800, well-off people that are able to afford $2,000 for a 3-day trip. And obviously don't want to be on trains that fall off tracks with those people on it. It sounds a little flippant. It came out not quite the way I intended. But the train is moving at 10 or 15 kilometers an hour. So there are upgrades required. And my sense is if the track was abandoned fairly quickly, it would be considered unsafe to use.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Director Thorpe.
It's not so much as a question as I can answer Mike's question. Some of the steepest grades in North America for trains are actually from Kelly Lake or Pear Lake, where we had the meeting last summer, down into Lillooet. They have to have they have to have a track maintainer basically follow the train down, watching for spot fires in the summertime because of the brakes. The track is still being maintained. There is a signal maintainer track maintainers there. My husband actually used to be the signal maintainer for that area. I know it fairly well.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? And I see that you have a request for a letter of support. We generally don't consider requests coming out of a delegation at the meeting in question, but it will reappear on a future agenda.
Thank you. I request that if council or if the board endorses the resolution or variant, that it be sent to me so I can share it with the people I'm talking with.
Yes, we can do that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
All right. We're going to move on to unfinished business. Is there any? I don't see any hands going up. Question period, item 10. Any questions from the gallery? Any questions online? This seems, having just gone 3 o'clock, this seems a logical place to stop for a break. So we will be breaking for 10 minutes. We will see you back here at 3:20. 1 minute warning, please. 1 minute warning. Get your coffees now. All right, everyone, we are back in session. We are moving right along to bylaws 11.1, beautiful Nicola Valley official community plan and Rivers, Peaks and Grasslands official community plan. We have 3 recommendations. Director Ranta, thank you. Seconded by Director Thorpe. No, we have to vote. Let's try. I'll make sure I'm looking in your direction for the next one. All right, that's okay. So, is there any discussion on recommendation 1 that beautiful Nicola Valley official community plan bylaw be introduced and read a first time? Discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. Recommendation 2. Director Houghton, seconded by Director Sarai. Thank you very much. This Rivers, Peaks and Grasslands official community plan be introduced and read a first time by title only. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. And recommendation 3. Director Smith, seconded by Vice Chair Smith. Thank you. And I do want to say thank you to everyone involved in putting these together. Incredible comprehensive documents, very well done. I know they take a lot of time to put together, a lot of work. So thank you. Director Laird.
I was just wondering if we have a schedule for open houses that are coming through. Have you got those sorted out yet?
Through the chair, no, we don't have a schedule yet. We wanted to get first reading on the docket here. And we were going to try to do, and we can certainly talk to the impacted area directors. We were trying to do some online engagement, doing like a video presentation so that folks anywhere who live maybe in Vancouver but own property, say at Nicola Lake, are able to watch these, because that was some of the feedback we had from some of the community meetings, was it was hard to get to at 7 o'clock at night in some of these communities. So we might try online engagement, but happy to chat more about if we want to do some in-person sessions.
Thank you. Director Thorpe.
Thank you, Chair. One of the things I really wanted to commend staff on when I was reading was the youth engagement. The part where you went into the high schools and engaged grade 11 and 12. I think that was creative, and thank you.
Thank you. Director Houghton.
I just want to echo what you said, Madam Chair. Thank you to the staff, all the engagements that we've done in the various communities to put in hours this big document together that I think is first time it's been done in many years. And you covered so many bases and made it more modern than we had before. So hopefully it answers a lot of the questions that people have and will make it life easier for the staff to do their work. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Houghton. Anyone else? On the question, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. 11.2 TNRD Search and Rescue Service Establishment Bylaw number 2909. We have.
Second.
Thank you. So that's moved by Director Ranta, seconded by Director Middleton. Thank you. And just a clarification, we have two recommendation ones accidentally, so we should have recommendation 2, 3, 4, 5. And then recommendation 6. So if you include all the subheads and sub-subheads, this is the longest single, this one takes the record for the most recommendations under a single heading. We thought we did set it last time, 8, and this supersedes that, so high bar to clear for the next one. All right, so we've got recommendation 1 moved and seconded. Questions and comments on that? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Recommendation 2, which is to be read, reading it a third time. Move recommendation was who? I heard a woman, Director Bass, seconded by Director Blackwell. Any discussion on recommendation number 2? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. Recommendation 3. Oh, I had stereophonic sound going there. I think that was Director Sarai and Director Karpuk seconding that. And this is this Search and Rescue Service Loan Authorization Bylaw be introduced and read a first and second time. Discussion, if any? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Recommendation 4, that this be forwarded to the Inspector of Municipalities. Director Thorpe, seconded by Director Karpuk. Discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. Recommendation 5 with the staggering list of subclauses and sub-subclauses can all be done as one big omnibus. Director Smith taking that one on, seconded by Director Karpuk. Any questions regarding any of that? Director Grenier.
I just wanted to ask staff, there's a 10% number, and is that a statutory number, or is that a number that has been picked?
Yeah, through the chair, that's a number that we've picked. The 10% contingency is what you're, oh, sorry.
Sorry, the 10% is a statutory number for all AAP processes.
Any further questions or comments on this? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. And this is now number 6.
Move 6.
Thank you,
And I have
Director
question.
Middleton, and seconded by Director Hall. And Director Middleton, you had a question?
I did, and I sort of asked earlier, I know there's a bit of an explanation coming, but I just was inquiring as to why we wouldn't proceed to a referendum if the AP were not successful. And I believe there's an answer for it. So I don't know if anybody else was wondering the same thing, but if you could give an explanation, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Middleton. So given that we have an election coming up in October, the timeline to successfully hold a referendum following an AAP, if the AAP is unsuccessful, we are mandated by through legislation that we have to proceed within 80 days. This means that we would have to involve our member municipalities and host a regional referendum while everyone is planning for elections. So it's really just a staffing timeline issue. We aren't able to do it at this time. If the board wishes to do it at a future date, we are able to. However, because the AAP would have failed at that point, there would need to be the introduction of more public engagement or different information or something different for the service itself. So if it's reduced requisition or something else along those lines, we would need to introduce something new in order to proceed with a referendum on that end. I hope that helps if anyone has any questions. I've
Thank you.
been
Yeah,
happy
so
to-
just my understanding of that is this doesn't negate the opportunity to have, should the AP not be successful, does not eliminate the possibility of having either another AAP and or a referendum at a later date beyond that 80 days if new information were available or if it was presented with new information?
Correct.
Thank you.
And just for context as well, so for a referendum process, if the referendum was to fail, we would be required through legislation, through the Local Government Act, to, or we wouldn't be able to proceed with another referendum for at least 6 months.
Thank you. And just for information too, I checked with staff. Within living memory, there has not been a referendum that takes in the entire TNRD. Probably the last time such a region-wide referendum happened involving every member municipality in every electoral area was most likely, Director Ranta might be able to correct me here, but I think it was probably around 1973, 74 when the regional library service was established. That's probably how long it's been since the TNRD has even thought about conducting a referendum throughout the entire region. So on recommendation number 6. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. 11.3, Building Regulations Bylaw, Amendment Bylaw number 2917. We have 3 recommendations here.
Move one.
So Director Grenier, seconded by Vice Chair Smith. Any discussion on recommendation 1? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Move 2, who was that? Director O'Toole, seconded by Director Thorpe. Questions, comments? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And recommendation 3. Director Thorpe, seconded by Director Karpuk. Questions, comments? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. All right, number 11.4, Solid Waste Management Facilities Amendment Bylaw number 2918. This is service participants weighted stakeholder vote, but the directors from the City of Kamloops will not be taking part in this vote. Director Smith, or was it Director Houghton? Thank you. Sorry, seconded by Vice Chair Smith. All right, any questions or comments? Director Grenier?
If I recall correctly, there was some discussion about increasing the $2 bag fee, scheduling some increases, say start with 2 and then next year 250 and then the next year 3 as an example. Is that being considered, or is there any comment on that?
Yeah, thanks through the chair. The intent now is so that this bylaw amendment takes into effect the immediate first increases. And then what we plan to do is bring a longer term strategy for regular increases to the Solid Waste Committee for discussion later this year that then could be implemented in further years.
Thank you. Any other questions? On the recommendation, all those in favor? It's force of habit. Did any of those Kamloops people put their hands up? All right, none opposed? That's carried. Recommendation number 2. Director Houghton, seconded by Director Stanky. Discussion. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And recommendation 3. Director O'Toole, seconded by Director Blackwell. Discussion.
Poor Director Getz had both hands up.
Oh dear, I cannot see him at all.
Just checking in.
just checking. I'll just look over there every now and again. Just wave really, really high. All right, on recommendation number 3, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. Development applications 12.1, temporary use permit number TUP 85. Okay, I've got Director Graham moving it, Director Laird seconding it. Discussion on this item. Director Thorpe.
Sorry, just a quick question. Do we know exactly what is going to be placed in this lay-down yard?
Through the chair, I understand there's another pipeline project that's going through the Nicola Valley, and the owner would like to have some of that equipment stored on the property. But we can't guarantee what equipment will be stored there, so we have to look at it generally as a laydown yard, a storage building, and they could store other material.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any other questions? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. 12.2, ALR application regarding this same property. Director Laird, seconded by Director Smith. Thank you. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. All right, we move on to reports 13.1, appointments to the Agricultural Advisory Commission. We have a recommendation.
Move the recommendation.
Director Middleton, thank you. Seconded by Director Sarai. Any discussion on this item? Mr. T. Blackwell, any relation? No? Okay. It's just checking. Yeah, all those in favor? Is anyone opposed? That is carried. 13.1.2, Cache Creek Library Overflow Parking Lot Short-Term Lease. Thank you, Director Ranta. Seconded by Director Thorpe. Thank you. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Is anyone opposed? That is carried. 13.1.3, Mammoth Lake Fire Protection Service Expansion and Tobiano Fire Protection Service Expansion. We have 2 recommendations. Director Sarai, seconded by Director Grenier. Thank you. Any discussion on recommendation number 1 regarding Mammoth Lake Fire Protection Service? Director Laird?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just through to Jamie, when you renegotiate or negotiate the Mammoth Area J, are we going to include Area M in the same, for we have fire protection in Area M?
Yeah, through the chair. So the fire protection agreement with Logan Lake would, the service area, sorry, I'll back up. The service area that what we're proposing here is expanding the existing service area. So then we would have to amend or update the agreement with the District of Logan Lake so that there would be one agreement for all the properties that would, yes, cover both Area M and these additional properties we're adding in Area J, not two separate, not two
Doing
separate.
it all at the same time.
Correct, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Are there, Director Grenier?
Thank you, Chair. Just want to thank staff for giving these folks an opportunity to consider being protected. I want to thank Mayor Smith for allowing that to happen. And we had a great meeting in Logan Lake. There were people that were for it, and they're going to end up getting this if we approve it. And there were people that said, no, thank you, but they got a chance to say no, thank you. So that was great. And just appreciate everybody's input on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, and thank you to staff for hosting it for us as well. My only question is the group that's along the Tonquois Lake Road. There seemed to be one fella that was sort of the spokesperson for all of those residences. So I just wanted to make sure that we're in touch with the rest of the residences along there to make sure that they are actually aligned with his representations. Thank you.
Yeah, I can comment on that through the chair. So all of the property owners were mailed directly an invite to the meeting, stressing that it's important that this is their opportunity to have their say, and only one property owner chose to attend the meeting. Following the meeting, we sent a follow-up letter to all property owners, basically stating the same thing that's in this report, saying that because we have not heard interest from that area, we're not pursuing it any further, and we've not heard any other response from those owners.
Director Smith?
Thank you, Chair. Did we miss the CAO report?
No, there is no CAO report. I only do it once a month and it's always the second one. So it's not on the agenda at all. Yep. Did you miss me? So I'll say something if you like. Chair, if I may, if I could introduce Chantel. She's the newest member to our ledge team and will be the corporate secretary.
Maybe we'll just get this recommendation done and then we'll.
Then they embarrass me.
No, I'm afraid you're not allowed to have a CAO report this time. It's not on the agenda. No, we'll just get these two recommendations dealt with, and then I'm happy to give you a little extemporaneous CAO report. So we do have recommendation 1 regarding Mammoth Lake, duly moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. We have recommendation 2. Director Ranta, thank you. Seconded by Director O'Toole. Discussion? Oh, Vice Chair Smith.
Thank you, Chair. And just a question on the process. So what is then the process if those residents along the Tonquola Lake Road that basically didn't participate decide in 6 months from now, they change their minds? Like, what is the process for bringing this back again? And how long would they have to wait for this process to come around again? Because it is an opportunity. And if you're not taking the opportunity when it's given to you, the time and resources that go into laying that out takes time. What happens if in 6 months from now, those properties change hands and those people decide to come back and want to negotiate for the service?
That is a good question and a challenge that we have on a regular basis because, so I guess to answer the question specifically, we don't have a board policy that sets out any waiting period or anything like that. But we have a lot of asks, as this board knows. We're always investigating and following up on requests for fire protection expansion or opportunities. So I guess to be blunt, it's one of those, okay, if you don't join now, then go to the back of the line and we'll consider your request when and if it's possible. And then we move it forward. So this one, for example, has been on the table in discussion for about the last year since we were renegotiating the agreement with Logan Lake and investigating this opportunity.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Director Sal?
Thank you. Just sharing with Director Smith frequent flyer experience for Birch Island. I believe in between the 2 reviews for fire protection was 10 years. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. All right, and I believe that we do have a CAO report. Thanks to popular demand, we have a CAO report.
Thank you, Chair Roden. I do blame Director Smith for this. But I do wanted to take a moment and just introduce Chantel. She will be the new corporate secretary or board secretary, replacing Justin. Naomi was thankfully filling in for us over the last number of meetings, but welcome to Chantel. Any words of wisdom? I didn't think so. So welcome to Chantel.
Thank you. Welcome, Chantel. All right, we have a draft report from the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? No? All right, new business. We have Director Graham regarding the Kettle Valley Rail Trail.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In your blue folder, you will find information on the decommissioning of the Kettle Valley Rail Trail. And the community of Brookmere in the electoral area N is situated directly on the trail. which the province has recently announced to be decommissioned rather than repaired. This section of the trail attracts visitors to the TNRD, both motorized and non-motorized. And additionally, it serves as a vital route for Brookmere residents, providing an emergency egress to the east towards Princeton if the route west to Coquihalla is inaccessible. The province's decision last month to decommission this portion of the trail was unexpected by the affected communities and user groups. I'm requesting that we join the village of Princeton and other concerned user groups in formally asking the province to collaborate with the local groups to explore alternative solutions that would allow continued access and enjoyment of this trail instead of decommissioning it and closing it outright. Therefore, I would like to make the following motion. That a letter be sent to the Minister of Environment and Parks requesting that the decommissioning process of the Kettle Valley Rail Trail between Princeton and Coquihalla be paused and no further decommissioning actions proceed until meaningful consultation has taken place with the affected communities, user groups, and local governments. Further, that the letter specifically highlight the community of Brookmere, which is located directly on the trail corridor and relies on the trail not only for recreation and tourism, but also as a critical emergency egress route during the wildfire flooding and other emergency events, which they are not stranger to. Thank you.
Okay, so moved by Director Graham, seconded by Director Bass. Thank you. Any discussion on this? Quite a lot of discussion around this. Mayor Coyne from Princeton has taken the lead on this. Quite a few, I think there's a Facebook page that's got 2,000 members now, Save the Kettle Valley or Save the KVR Trail. So I think they're looking at ways to not decommission the trail, but to keep it going in some format. So thank you, Director Graham, for bringing this forward. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Are there any other items of new business? Whoa, Director Houghton and then Director Grenier.
Make this short. Had the opportunity of helping her, a young 4-H member. Her name was Lana Smith, that wanted to do a speak and show for her local 4-H club, which is a Lower North Thompson club in the West Side area. And she said, Doug, I need your help. I want to do it on agricultural plastics recycling, that project that you brought forward to the TNRD. I said, well, of all the things you could have chosen, why did you choose that? I'm very interested in getting that problem solved like you are. So I took this young girl down to Frolic Cattle Company a few Sundays ago and had a one-on-one with owner Darren Dempsey. And he explained how the whole process worked. And she did her speak and show last Saturday over on MacArthur Island and gave a most detailed report I've ever seen on explaining it via screen and with her all her knowledge. And the best thing I liked about it is because the panel of judges, one of them was Marcella Bernardo from CBC, and the questions that young girl got were very technical questions, and she had all the answers. She had done her research I gave her all the material we had here, and she obviously had spoken to Clean Farm, and the girl won the competition with 90.6 marks out of 100. And I said, I've never been so proud of a young 4-H'er and doing a project that's big to our hearts here. So I wanted to pass that on. Congratulations, Lana Smith. And her parents own Fifth Avenue Jewelers.
Thank you. On next Saturday, the 14th, this is either be the third or the fourth year, I'll be judging the 4-H Communications Day in Ashcroft. And I was at the school a couple of weeks ago doing a literacy day event, and I cycled through 5 classes to read to them all. And I had 2 different students come up and ask me if I was going to be judging. And I said, well, if someone asks me, I'm happy to come and judge, but I'm not just going to show up on the day. So the next day I got an invitation to return again and judge. And I just have to say, it is such an amazing day because these kids, I know how scary it is to appear in front of a room full of strangers and talk, and they have so much poise. They are so knowledgeable about their subjects. Some of them even throw in a little bit of humor, which is just incredible to be able to have the self-confidence to do that. And it's just amazing to watch these kids, and to be a part of it is a wonderful feeling. So I know a little bit about how you felt, Director Houghton. But no, I think we really need to encourage our 4-H kids, and the speaking is a huge skill that will do them really well in life. Next, I had Director Grenier.
Thank you, Chair. Learned today from Susan Edgehill at BC Hydro that they're planning a 12-hour outage that's going to affect Tobiano, Savinaw, Wallachine, and I guess Deadman Valley, Skeecheson. And they're going to need the full 12 hours, they said, to do whatever it is they have to do. So I've notified CIO Hildebrand and Mr. Vieira, and anything we can do to get the message out to our constituents so that they don't get caught on May 24th with their freezers open, or a golf course that has got no power, or anything like that. Anything we can do to get that message out. BC Hydro is going to send us a notice that we can then perhaps get out through Mr. Davies or whatever. But I guess Director Thorpe, you're now in the loop. Good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And I guess I can announce this is for all around the region. It was in the paper this morning, so if people haven't seen it, it's too bad by now. The Rotary, Ashcroft Cache Creek Rotary Club has for many years now they took over something that Kinsman started in 1973, which was Citizens of the Year. And it started with the Kinsman as Ashcroft and Cache Creek. It is now expanded to include a winner from TNRD Area I and a youth winner who can be from anywhere in the area. So Director Thorpe, perhaps you'd like, since you nominated the recipient from TNRD Area I, perhaps you would like to talk about Leanne Morden.
Oh, Leanne's amazing. Leanne Morden runs the Wallachine Soldiers Memorial Hall and the museum. She spends countless hours trying to figure out where she can find grants, how she can find grants. She has set up an amazing display, and she's constantly updating it. She and her husband also run the Wallace Shindig every year. It's unbelievable the amount of hours she puts in. She is the person that is at that museum on her own dime, like totally volunteering 4 or 5 days a week, all through the summer. And I can't think of anybody actually more deserving who puts in more hours and doesn't seek the recognition than Leanne. So that's why I nominated her.
Thank you. And for Cache Creek, it was our Darlene and Gordon Daly, longtime Lions Club members, but they do so much else for the community. For Ashcroft, it's sadly a posthumous award for Wayne Warnock, who was very much a champion of the South Caribou Sportsmen Association after their facilities were devastated in the 2017 Elephant Hill wildfire. He arranged a series of Rebuild Our Range raffles, got some fantastic prizes, went far and wide with the ticket sales and the prizes, and raised about $80,000 for the Sportsman Association. And then from the youth winner is, oh dear, do you remember from Lytton? Pigeon? I know the last name.
Jewel Phillips.
Jewel Phillips.
From
Yeah,
Lytton, and she is a young lady that has done a lot for the community, and she is on the council for Lytton First Nations.
She's a little bit older than the usual youth that they have, which is usually sort of capped around 18, so school age, but it was felt by the committee that Jewel exemplified what they look for in the youth. And she was nominated by someone at Cumsheen Scamameet School, That's what I was told by Teresa Takis from the Rotary Club.
I believe the nomination came from Andrew Ford, who is the, I think the word is learning coordinator. I'm not quite sure the correct term with, he's employed by Lytton First Nations, and he works quite closely with the schools and the youth in the community.
Right, yep, I was told he worked with Skamshin Skamamit School. He was a teaching or learning coordinator there. So really great to see these people that, from our region honored. There will be a celebration in Ashcroft on April 10th. So if you're in Ashcroft on April 10th, please come by the reception at St. Albans Hall, where all these people will be recognized and honored. So Director Sao, did you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. I'll make this quick as well. Speaking of people who do so much for our communities, just to let the board know, my predecessor, Carol Schaefer, is putting together a raffle in support of the Forest View Long-Term Care facility in the Helmken Hospital in Clearwater. They're trying to get new equipment. TNRD has put together, offer some swag for a basket. So if you're a municipality or businesses that you know in the area wants to support this raffle, reach out to myself and I'll put you in touch with Carol. Thank you.
Thank you. And Director Middleton.
Thank you. Just a little shout out to our first responders and groups, and including some of our counselors that attended today's polar plunge in support of the Special Olympics. There was a good turnout. I think there were approximately 50 that took the plunge. Myself not included. I fortunately had to chair the Finance Committee meeting at 10 o'clock this morning. The same time they were jumping in the river, so I had a good reason to opt out, but I did donate instead. But just a little shout out to all our participants, all our first responders, our CMP, fire department, CSO. I saw St. John's Ambulance was there. Paramedics, is sort of the whole crew are all contributing. So if you haven't already, if you feel so inclined to go online and contribute, the donations do stay here in Kamloops. Just make sure you select the correct links on the website to ensure that your donation stays here in Kamloops in support of the Special Olympics. So thank you to everybody here and anybody that might be following us online. Thank you.
And Director Morris.
Oh, thank you. Just a quick note. Last evening, we had the trip up to McClure, driven by Kevin Shrupnick, of course, and Joe. And the purpose, of course, was a good one in that hall is now at the point that they will, as a result of some input from particularly Kevin and Joe, that we're going to be able to utilize that hall for some of the kind of community events that folks like to have. And it did take a little bit of work to get through a few bits of paperwork and bureaucracy, I suspect. So anyways, they were a very pleased group of people, and really nice to see them truly on their feet and on the run. So thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Do we have anyone with a notice of motion? We do not. In that case, ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.